Ah, good morrow there. Do excuse me. I was just tucking into a very hearty British breakfast, which is, of course, a Sainsbury's meal deal. Consists of a one sandwich, so I got chicken and bacon, one packet of crisps, it's not chips, fuck off America, and then, of course, last and not least, the crowning achievement, a can of beer. Now, recently, over the last, say, month, you've probably seen this guy on your screens quite a lot. He's certainly appeared on mine. Prior to, say, a couple of months ago, you probably wouldn't even know who this guy was unless you were living in or very familiar with the UK. But he's recently decided to step into the limelight in probably one of the worst possible ways that you could, both for your character and your career. Now, to preface, prior to making this video, I wasn't really that familiar with Phillip Schofield, to be perfectly honest. I knew of his existence, of course, because I was raised in the UK, but I didn't really care for him. Morning, positive kind of UK TV shows, they never really appealed to me, and I don't think they really appealed to my parents either. They were never like on in the house when I was a kid or anything like that, whereas a lot of my friends were more familiar with it. Their parents watched it a lot. So when these allegations, as they were at the time, first started coming out, I was first just kind of annoyed that they wouldn't get the fuck off my news feeds. Eventually I started to have a bit more of a look as things started to come out, and like a drug I was caught, and eventually I found myself sitting down to make a video about it. And originally that video started as just a 10-minute kind of shitpost taking the piss of the situation, but the more I dug into it, the angrier I got, and lo and behold, it has become this. To be perfectly honest, that's how most of my very long videos begin. They start off as just, oh, I'll do a quick video, and well, there's definitely something wrong with me. Who am I kidding? There's many fucking things wrong with me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you today something that I originally thought would take me about a week to put together. It's taken over a month at this stage. What the fuck am I doing with my life?
That's great. I wonder if Sebastian and Scragtag have ever met. Great. Your turn for the tea again today.
Well, who's that cheeky chappy then? Old Phil began his early career and rise to fame in the 1980s. In 1981, aged 19, he moved to New Zealand with his family and landed his first few TV and radio gigs. In particular, he did a lot of voice work, you know, kind of puppet work for the kids. That sort of thing. Eventually, and to the detriment of us British, he moved back to the UK, and that's where his career really began to start slowly taking off.
In just a moment, beat the teacher. It's Mr. McCourt, isn't it? Who's been there every day. If he's not beaten soon, I think we'll all have to go down and sort him out. So that's soon. Just a moment, actually. And then at 4:30, there's Dungeons and Dragons.
Here he is in 1986, presenting CBBC, which, if you don't know, is a major children's television channel over here in the UK. Why, my childhood was beautifully fed by it. Trapped, Dick and Dom, Tracy Beaker, the Sarah Jane Adventures. Good shit. Good times. Anyway, in between every show on CBBC, there was always like a little 5-minute kind of interlude where a host, usually accompanied by a goofy little puppet sidekick, would wrap up the show that you've just seen, briefly tell a few jokes, or read some fan mail or some shit, and then introduce what's coming next. That little segment and the studio that it was shot in have now been fondly nicknamed the Broom Cupboard, and Phillip Schofield was its first ever presenter. He stayed in that particular closet from 1985 to 1987, until eventually coming out and moving on to host a show called Going Live until 1993.
What have you come as? Are you on holiday? Is this it? Straight away? Where are you going? Is it? Can't tell at all. Apparently it's a very closely guarded secret. Why is that? Oh, I see. He doesn't want to get bothered by press and things as he goes away.
Similarly to the Broom Cupboard, Going Live was a kids' TV show, and so naturally it was shit, and I promise we won't dwell on it long. But unlike the Broom Cupboard, when Schofield left, Going Live didn't continue without him. By this point in time, Phillip Swift is doing pretty well for himself. He's become somewhat of a household name, certainly a recognisable face, but not just to the masses of Britain sitting at home on their sofas, but also to a little corporation known as ITV, or international television if you want to drag it through the fucking dirt, is one of the biggest broadcasting companies over here in the UK, to put it simply. And from the early 90s onwards, old Philip found himself hosting and presenting on a lot more ITV shows, more frequently and frequently as well. At the time, ITV in turn seemed to like Philip back. At the time, he was an easy, recognisable face, many liked him, but ITV and Phillip Schofield's mutual love and understanding and friendship for one another eventually leads to the latter joining the cast of This Morning in 1998.
Good morning. Well, of course, that was Barry Manilow. See more of him a little bit later on. I'm Phillip Schofield.
And I'm Karen Keating.
This Morning is basically a daytime talk show, probably one of the biggest in the UK. You know, the equivalent of like TV, magazine, gossip, the UK Oprah, if you will. Anyway, up until recent events, which we'll get back to soon, This Morning was probably one of the biggest and most popular shows in the UK, like I said. It was known for its kind of wholesome sort of vibes, I guess. They cover a wide variety of topics like news, lifestyle, cooking, hell, even gardening. And off the back of that, they interview a shitload of different kinds of people as well, you know, from all walks of life. So sometimes you get funny stories, sometimes they'd be sad, sometimes they'd be heartwarming. It's a wide mix of emotions that women in their 40s, I'm sure, fucking love. This Morning started in 1998. That's right, you clever, observant bastards. Yeah, that's the same year that Philip joined. And when he started, he was but a humble co-guest presenter, is what my screen here is telling me. He'd occasionally do segments and panels on the show, but he wouldn't really be there for the entire duration. But in 2002, what a surprise, he became one of the two main presenters of the show, alongside Fern Britton. What an apt name, madam. Fern, who had also been there since the programme's beginning, would stay on until 2009. But Philip, however, would cling to his throne for 21 years until the 20th of May, 2023.
But before all of that...
Fern's departure, obviously as an OG, was not treated lightly, and so 2009 and the first series without her saw a brand new, revamped studio and a brand new, perky, chirpy sidekick for Philip Swift in the name of Holly Willoughby. I've got to stop calling him Philip Swift.
Good morning. Just as the title started, I said, "No, I'm not doing it."
Come back. I'm holding on very tightly.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How do you feel?
Hello. Like this isn't really happening.
Well, you just said that a second ago, which makes me just a tad nervous.
Holly Willoughby is, I'm sure, a face you're very familiar with at this point as well. She hosted the programme for 14 years with Philip, and to the date of this recording, is still on the show as the main host. During that rough decade and a half, This Morning, Phillip Schofield and Holly Willoughby essentially thrived. Philip in particular was basically at the top of his game and at the top of ITV as well. As well as hosting This Morning, he would host a shitload of other regular ITV shows. You know, things like Dancing on Ice, The Cube, even things like Comic Relief and the National TV Awards. So, you know, these are pretty big deals. I would say that the latter half of the 2000s, and certainly most, if not all of the 2010s, is Phillip Schofield's prime. And probably This Morning as well. Both of their popularities peaked, I believe, in February 2022. Just before coronavirus came along and slapped us all across the jaw with its massive cock. This is, of course, when Phillip Schofield came out as gay, after being married to a woman since 1993 and having 2 children with her.
We sit here every day, and I'm over there, and some amazingly brave, incredible person is sitting here.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to their story and thinking, oh my God, you're so brave. Oh my God, you're so brave. And I'm thinking, I have to be that person.
Yeah.
I have to be that person.
Philip stated that he thought he was bisexual for most of his marriage, but had recently come to the conclusion that actually he was fully over the fence and liked dudes. The news was received well at the time. I mean, it would be, wouldn't it? And nobody really thought anything more of it, and on we moved. What we didn't realise is that this was probably the last major high point of Philip's career.
Do you know,
Tell me.
if it had, like, ham in it, it's closer.
No.
It's closer to a British carbonara.
Oh, no.
It is. No, that's true.
Oh, well, fine. So I'm glad you're standing there.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
If my grandmother had wheels, she would have been a bike. You know,
Towards the end of 2019 and the start of 2020, rumours began to emerge that Phillip Schofield was having an affair with a younger member of staff at ITV. Matthew McGreevy is now 27, which puts him 34 years his junior to Phillip Schofield. Records show that ITV did actually look into this at the time, but how thorough they were and how good of a job they did, that all remains to be seen. At the time, however, nothing was found, and both Matthew and Phillip spuriously denied anything. For the time being, it was enough to keep the broom cupboard door shut, but cracks were beginning to show. And so for the next 2 and a bit years, both Philly D and This Morning trundle on as best they can amidst the Sorry, I don't know where the fuck that came from. And so for the next 2 and a bit years, both Philly D and This Morning kind of trundle on as best as you can amidst the pandemic, with those cracks slowly but surely beginning to get a bit more noticeable. On September the 5th, This Morning aired a spin the wheel sort of prize game, and one of the prizes on it was they pay for your energy bills. I don't know if you're aware, but over here in the UK there's a cost of living crisis, that's what everybody on the TV calls it, and that was done as a part of an effort to try and combat it. Sounds nice on paper, but then when you sit down and watch it, it's actually quite dystopian as fuck.
Okay, here we go. So we'll pay your energy bills, got £1,000 as well. So this is energy bills, I think, for 4 months if it stops on that.
Nice.
So how are your energy bills? Are you a bit worried about it all?
Major.
Yeah.
Are you?
Not only is it dystopian as fuck though, look just how fake and detached both Philip and Holly are for the entirety of this scene.
Oh, God.
Right, well, let's hope it lands on one of those then.
Whatever,
Right.
you're going to win some money, so
Here we
don't
go.
worry. Here we go.
One way or t'other. Here we go.
Oh, what a relief. Thank you very much.
Oh, listen, well done, you.
By this point, people were already beginning to speculate that Holly and Philip didn't really like each other that much very more, and were only just pretending to like each other on camera still. Obviously, if the fucking train's still rolling, why would you stop the money train? 2 weeks later, amidst the funeral of Queen Lizzie of Britain, Philip and Holly threw themselves under the metaphorical bus yet again by skipping the queue to pay their respects to the dead monarch. This is arguably the first time the pair have come out in a fully negative light in the press and the media, and despite what they tried to do to cover it up and deny it at first, it didn't really do anything to help their favour at all.
Like hundreds of accredited broadcasters and journalists, we were given official permission to access the hall. It was strictly for the purpose of reporting on the event for millions of people in the UK who haven't been able to visit Westminster in person. None of the broadcasters and journalists there took anyone's place in the queue, and no one filed past the Queen. We, of course, respected those rules. However, we realised that it may have looked like something else, and therefore totally understand the reaction. Please know that we would never jump a queue.
That's probably got to be one of the, if not the most profound moments of my life, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Being there to see something like that was incredible.
Their attempts to deny it weren't only embarrassing, but they also further demonstrated again just how fake and detached the two were in each other's company now. So you've had 2 little hiccups now, and there's rumours circulating all over the place that Philip and Holly actually fucking hate each other's guts these days. And all the while that's going on, in the background, all these rumours about young Matt McGreevy are slowly beginning to surface and bubble over from their terrible pots. And all of this would culminate quite dramatically and arguably quite quickly at the end of May 2023.
This is our very last opening.
Hello, and welcome to your Thursday this morning. This is the UK's #1 daytime show as presented by Philip and Holly. There's so much coming up on the show today, so I can't wait for you to hear all about it.
Oh, my God.
Hairs just went up on the back of my head.
I know.
So this is...
Well, this is Amica.
This is the episode of This Morning from the 18th of May 2023. And though people didn't realise it on that particular morning, it would also be the last time that Phillip Schofield ever hosted the show. I don't think even he realised it at the time, but hey-ho, that's show business, Philip. You know how quickly things can move.
I'm not making toad in a hole. This is sausage in a hole.
The following day, Phillip Schofield's brother, Tim, is sentenced to 12 years in prison for sexually assaulting a child. During the trial, it comes to light that Tim had actually confided in Philip about what was going on, and Philip had advised him to see a medical professional but hadn't told the police. Phil's own response after the verdict was simply to say, that he didn't have a brother anymore.
That would be the final push.
And so, not 48 hours after finally hosting This Morning, Phil announces that he decided to step back from This Morning with immediate effect. This then appears to be the breaking point. The rumours surrounding Holly and Phil's relationship, as well as the actual relationship he's having with a young boy, they can't be ignored or shoved under the rug anymore. Something has to be done. Some did still try to ignore it for a while. Philip insisted at first on Instagram that he's just decided to step back, and that all's good actually. Holly popped a very nice little touching message about his departure on Instagram as well. I mean hell, the whole departure could well have just been one last attempt for everyone to kind of run for cover and ITV to kind of save face and swiftly move on from the situation. Either way though, it didn't work, because 5 days later, Philip fessed up.
All you can be in your life is honest with yourself.
In his statement, aptly issued to one of the shittiest tabloid newspapers in Britain, the Daily Mail, he admits to having an on-off relationship with Matthew McGreevy for a number of years. He at least tries to keep Matthew anonymous, but by this point it's a little bit too late. He also admits that he first met Matt when he was but 15 years old, but the relationship didn't start until he was 20. His first interview following his admission of guilt is with probably the other shittiest tabloid British paper, The Sun, where we see him doubling down, all while clutching a fucking vape pen.
He worked at the show for a bit. We became mates. And then one day, something happened that just changed it.
I'm not quite sure what he expects to do by clinging to a vape pen. Maybe it's to look more relatable, or maybe just because he's fucking addicted to smoking, who knows, but fucking hell. Jesus Christ, dude. Triple mango. Fuck me. Just smoke normal cigarettes, dude, if you're going to be... I suppose you can't do that indoors. Anyway, swiftly back to the topic at hand. All of this, all of Philip's statements and confessions, they're all, bear in mind, just his words. Phillip Schofield has been described by many former colleagues and has also just outed himself as a complete and total liar. So can we take these at face value? No. For a start, there's the question of how long Phil has actually known Matthew for. Sources seem to show that he was as young as 11 when he first met Phil, who was a patron of his drama school and who then followed him on Twitter as a result.
Visited the drama school. I visited all sorts of schools all over the country when I was asked to go to the drama school. And that was that. Because I follow 11,300 people. So I followed him on Twitter. And I think he probably said what everybody says is, thanks for following. And that was that. And then it became more occasional career advice.
From there, the two apparently started seeing each other more. This is Jack Jones. He's a brain-dead TikToker these days, but in 2015, he accidentally filmed a very conclusive piece of evidence. Thanks, Jack. Here he is, filming a thank you for 1 million Facebook followers video. That sentence was really, really fucking hard to say.
1 million followers! Woo!
How are you? I'm good. So, aside from the fact that this video is lazy beyond fucking belief, I mean, Christ, you've got 1 million followers, do a bit more for the occasion. Aside from that, it's clear to see that in the background, the child sat with Phillip Schofield is in fact Matt McGreevy. If Matt's born in 1996, that would put him at about 18, 19 years old here in this video. So he's just turned legal.
After I did the video, he begged me not to post the video up because he said it could ruin my career. And I said, how could it ruin your career? And he said he didn't want to get into it. But we all know the truth now, don't we, Philip? And the truth is, he was grooming his kid from the age of 10 years old, saying he's going to give him this, give him that. But in fact, he was just giving him a bumming. And when that Matt kid wanted to come out and talk about it, he made him sign a contract where he wasn't allowed to speak about it. And he was paying 30 grand a month to take down any article that was talking about their relationship.
But Phil and Matt had started talking regularly long before this video anyway, I say. At 18 years old, Matthew landed a job as a floor runner on This Morning, courtesy of his friendship with old Phillip Schofield. Whether the relationship started then, or earlier, or when Matt was 20 like Philip claimed, we will probably never know. But it all looks a bit conspicuous really, doesn't it?
Philip, thank you so much.
I'll see you in 3 years.
See you in 3 years. Wonder what we'll both be doing then.
Well, if I'm still getting away with it, I'll be a happy man. We were mates, and you know, we around the studios, you hang out together, you know, you chat to each other, that sort of stuff. And then in my dressing room one day, something happened.
The relationship seems to have lasted somewhere from around 2016 to 2019, maybe the fringes of 2020, ending around the time that those first allegations began to show their face anyway. Could that have been the reason that Phil got cold about the relationship? Who knows? Could that be the reason that he suddenly came out as gay? Who knows? He said it wasn't in his statement, but again, this is only Phillip Schofield's word to go on. Why would you believe it? Eamonn Holmes, who worked as a co-presenter on This Morning with his wife Ruth up until 2020, came out in an absolute bombshell of an interview about a month and a half ago.
He's either deluded or he's lying, and he has admitted he tells lies, and he tells a lot of lies. But he is the chief narcissist. He is a complete and utter dyed-in-the-wool narcissist. Everything is about him. And last week when he issued the statement where he said, I have decided to step back. I mean, honestly, it makes me laugh, and people report that. Phillip Schofield has decided to step back, like heck he has. And then Holly Willoughby responds with, the couch will seem so empty without him. Well, she should be dancing on the couch because that's what she was looking for forever. So, do these people take the public for fools? Answer, yes they do.
Eamonn is Irish for a start, so he doesn't pull any fucking punches at all. He says exactly what he means, as ruthlessly as he likes. His interview is a mind-boggling insight, not just into the world of Phillip Schofield and how he apparently ran This Morning, but also into ITV as a general. You know, how and why this scandal was allowed to take place at all, let alone for so long.
And when there was talk of Philip having a relationship with a young man, that young man was, in inverted commas, promoted. He didn't seek promotion, didn't ask for promotion. He was promoted against his will onto another programme, Loose Women.
And when you do think about it, it does start to raise a few questions. But first, an interlude. You've heard of Lost Marys, right? I mean, hell, I was guzzling one down my unchristian throat not but a few minutes ago in this video. Lost Marys are a trend over here in the UK. All the 14-year-olds love them. I mean, Phillip Schofield's such a huge fan of them too. Aren't you, Phil? Attaboy. Bad phrasing, actually. A lot of colleagues at work have told me that Lost Marys seem to last a bit longer than other vaping brands, say Elf bars for example, but I think as well it's that distinctive sort of shape. And so obviously with the success that any brand has, a lot of carbon copy, cheap rip-offs have suddenly started appearing in all your local crappy petrol stations to try and outcompete and gain some of the money that Lost Mary would get. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present one of those fucking rip-offs that really made me laugh. Without further ado, I present to you Found Mary. That's the name of the product, Found Mary. It's just so shameless and such a garbled name. I love it. I've seen other rip-off Lost Mary brands out there in the shops as well. One, for example, I remember is called Bloody Mary. At least that makes sense. Like, at least it's a functioning fucking name. But Found Mary is just like... It makes no sense really when you think about it. I like to think that whoever came up with the rip-off and the name speaks not a word of English and somehow really fucking garbled their Google Translate up. That's what I hope happened anyway. Anyway, this was just a little public safety announcement just to make you aware of the existence of Found Marys and how funny they are as a product in general. Thank you for watching. Let's go back to what we were talking about.
The circumstances are as follows here. You met someone who was a child, you were in a position of power over them, you used your power eventually to give them something they craved, which was a shot at a job in the media, you nurtured a relationship and then that relationship became sexual. And they might ask, what's the difference between that and grooming?
Well, I would say that the initial list of things was not right anyway.
On the 5th of June, This Morning returned to air. without Phil, and with what the ITV scriptwriters must have assumedly thought would be a heartfelt and emotional message from Holly Willoughby. It wasn't.
Hi there, good morning, Josie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Holmes.
Right, deep breath. Firstly, are you okay? I hope so. Feels very strange indeed sitting here without Phil. And I imagine that you might have been feeling a lot like I have. Shaken, troubled, let down, worried for the well-being of people on all sides of what's been going on, and full of questions.
I mean, everybody saw through this shit. What the fuck were they thinking? Why would you open and ask if I'm okay? It's almost laughable.
I hope that as we start this new chapter and get back to a place of warmth and magic that this show holds for all of us, we can find strength in each other. And from my heart, can I just say thank you for all of your kind messages and thank you for being here this morning.
It's like a fucking sketch. It's like a fucking parody of itself. And furthermore, where's the apology? Even if you weren't responsible or didn't know about this, you still, you still owe us an apology. Holly claims that she never knew about Philip and Matthew's relationship and only first heard about it when the allegations began to surface back in 2019-2020. According to her as well, she went to Philip at the time and asked him if it was true, and he said no, and that was good enough for her. But to be honest, nobody believes that either, and especially not Eamonn Holmes.
This nonsense that he wrote today about toxicity, about it's the happy place and whatever. Holy God. What planet does this man live on? I didn't know, but I've subsequently found out from a very, very good source, because he would arrive much earlier in the morning than I would for the programme, that he was delivered from Philip's London home, usually on a Friday morning, because Thursday was playtime. He obviously stayed overnight, and there are records to show that he was brought in the next day separately.
In cars paid for by ITV?
In cars paid for by ITV.
So the management would have had to have known about that, wouldn't they?
Unless Philip paid the bill separately, but it would still have to go through the accounts office that they would have seen that and known that.
And so then you might ask yourself, why didn't anyone stop this? Surely someone at the top of ITV must have heard about this. Why did nobody step in? Why was this allowed to continue for so long, and why was it hushed up for so long?
They had gone to the senior bosses at ITV in November 2019 with the story of Philip having this inappropriate relationship with the young man, and had urged them to investigate, because why, at the very least, would you not investigate? I wasn't saying that Philip was guilty of anything, I was saying you should launch an investigation. And
for the protection of the young man.
Absolutely, and I was told that I was spreading malicious gossip, and that was the statement in which they gave me.
Well, I was told that there was a thorough investigation after that, which involved the following. Philip, are you having a relationship with this guy? Nope. Hello, this guy, are you having a relationship with Philip? Nope. Investigation over.
Well, the answer, I believe, is because they don't really give a shit. As long as the programme is working and still pulling in that sweet, sweet revenue, they probably don't care at all. Not convinced? Let's have a look at another 2 ITV shows from the last decade.
Essex is a continent. No. No, it's a county. Oh, what, a country? A county. What's the difference between a county and a country?
Running since the 7th of June 2015 and currently on its 10th season, Love Island is one of the things I hate the most on this planet. Every single thing about it I despise. From the contestants, to the conflict, to the fucking commentary, everything I hate. But one thing I especially hate is the way it's produced.
I was on Love Island, and after it, I nearly ended it all.
Many former contestants of Love Island have come forward in more recent years and described their experiences both on the show and the aftermath following them leaving. From what I gathered at a quick glance immediately, the pay's not very good. A lot of stories of them going straight back to jobs just to keep the lights on. The pressure and the intensity of a show like Love Island is probably going to be pretty high, let's be realistic here, but apparently there was no kind of care taken for contestants, even to the point where if they were pushed into shit for the sake of camera stuff, who cares? Let's just do it. They'll be fine.
I was being told like what to wear, to go in, waiting for ages to then be introduced to the Islanders. What they was doing was like keeping you up really late, waking you up early, so then you're going to react more because you basically got sleep deprivation. They're not there to care about feelings, they're there to make a TV show. When you're there, you don't realise how much you are controlled by them. If you talk too much about life outside of the island, the voice of God, which is like a big speaker, will tell you to shut up. So it's like, this doesn't make good telly.
Many have reported dealing with anxiety, depression, and even suicidal thoughts upon leaving Love Island. And to date, 2 former show contestants and 1 former presenter have actually taken their own lives. And again, I asked the same question: how could this be allowed to happen, and apparently continue to happen, because Love Island hasn't been taken off the air, unlike Phillip Schofield and my next example. It's still very much on TV and very much popular, and while I don't and do not watch it for fucking anything, from what I can see, it hasn't really changed all that much.
Hello, Eamonn. I hope you and Ruth are well. Just wanted to tell you that the whole Phillip Schofield scandal has actually given many This Morning staff the courage to finally speak out. I left this morning with a payout, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement to cover up the bullying and power abuse. All these years later, and she states how many years these are, I now feel I have the courage to talk about this, and it appears I'm not alone.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
You say I'm sick and tired of this damn woman harassing me.
I am.
But I thought you were sending explicit pictures of your private parts to her.
I've sent one and I had a bad day at work.
Now this show is a little bit different from Love Island, and to be honest, this show and the man that surrounded it, they deserve their own video in their own right. But in brief, the Jeremy Kyle Show started on the 4th of July 2005 and ran for just shy of 14 years. It was basically one of those shitty Dr. Phil-esque talk argument shows that you see a lot of in the US, but based here in the UK instead. Which makes its start date of July the 4th even more beautifully ironic. Here in the UK, there's a regulation body called Ofcom, or the Office of Communications if you want to pull it out. They have rules about what you can and can't do on TV, basically, and one of those rules is that you can't present a fake or scripted TV show as real to an audience. So you can either make it very clear that this is fake and satire, or you can do it for real. And ITV decided to try and go with the latter. So where shows like, say, Jerry Springer in the US, for example, where they are sometimes very clearly, you know, deliberately hyped up or a bit fake for views, the Jeremy Kyle Show is all 100% real. All the people they've got on, all the issues they're complaining about and arguing about, they're all 100% real.
There you are.
Thank you very much.
You could be as good a father as you are envelope collector. The world will be a...
And former contestants of this show have said very similar things to that of the Love Island camp. Very little care for anyone, a lot of stress and pressure put on you, cameras constantly on you, being kind of pushed into doing certain things or behaving certain ways. And then on top of that, you've got Jeremy Kyle sitting there being a wanker, either to you or to someone at least, for a good hour and a bit, basically. And you can see all of this in any half-decent compilation video of the Jeremy Kyle Show on YouTube.
Shut up or you won't come on. Sit down, be quiet, or you can do one.
Anyone like toffee crisps?
Me.
You ain't gonna like them now.
Why?
Because she had sex with someone who wore a toffee crisp wrapper as a Johnny.
Years and years of this twisted show and the way it treated people eventually led to one of the former contestants, Steve Diamond, taking his own life about a week after he starred on a Jeremy Kyle episode. He'd gone on the show to try and prove affirmatively that he hadn't been cheating on his wife and he was completely innocent. He insisted that he hadn't and that he'd always been faithful, and yet the lie detector on the Jeremy Kyle Show came back and said the opposite. According to my Googles, Jeremy Kyle's lie detector is known as a polygraph, which ITV claims is upwards of 95% effective. In reality though, according to some studies, they're closer to the 80% mark. Some even put them down as low as 55%. Polygraphs work best in controlled and calm kind of environments. They detect basically, you know, subtle, maybe anxious movements in the face, or as you jump if you're asked a question, and it can calculate all that and kind of give a probability of whether that was a lie or not. So imagine putting someone on the Jeremy Kyle Show riling them up, Jeremy Kyle himself being a wanker to them, putting them through the emotions, be it tears or just plain rage, and then you take them into a little quiet room and ask them to do a lie detector test. How well do you think that's going to go? How accurate do you think that's going to be? And bear in mind, during that Steve Diamond episode, while it was never aired, accounts say that he spent most of the episode calling him a complete liar, a serial liar was one phrase that he used a lot apparently, and that nobody trusted him at all. So that's bound to help when you're taking a lie detector test that's entirely based on how calm and composed you are when answering the questions. Steve Diamond insisted that he was innocent right up until the end. His final messages left to his wife, Jane, literally said the very same thing. Following the news of his suicide, ITV immediately said that the Jeremy Kyle show was no longer a thing. On the 10th of May 2019, it was cancelled for good. Great, you might say in the back of your mind very quietly. At least they got rid of the show. But how was it allowed to keep going for 14 years? That's what really staggers me. It seems, just like with Phillip Schofield's case, like it's too little too late. And as for Love Island, well, that fucking atrocity is still on air, so that's nothing at all. But there you are, basically. 3 for 3 with ITV, if you will. 3 of its biggest shows that have been clearly outed as horrific behind the scenes, pretty awful to its contestants and workers, and willing to let some pretty awful shit slide so long as the money train keeps on chewing. I'm not saying that ITV is the only massive corporation that does this. It's far from the only one, let's be realistic here. But I think it's pretty rare that you get 3 very quick successive examples of just how shitty a company is behind its nice little corporate face. Had just one of these incidents happened, you or the company could argue, oh, that's not us, that was just the show. We don't condone that shit. How dare they do that? Never again. But, I mean, 3, the old saying says, fool me twice, shame on me. So if you've got 3 examples, you can fuck off. Thankfully, Phillip Schofield has now been outed and punished somewhat. Hopefully he gets a bit more. But at least he's gone from this morning, at least it's something. Too little too late. On a similar vein, while the Jeremy Kyle show is thankfully no longer a thing, Jeremy Kyle has managed to scuttle off into the corner and start his own right-wing talk show. He seems to be doing just fine. Again, it's too little too late. So aside from holding these 2 individuals a little bit more accountable, it's worth looking at maybe making sure that this shit never happens again. Because whatever the fuck is going on at ITV, it clears to be some sort of environment where this is very possible and likely to happen. And that should probably stop. Because based on ITV's track record, it is going to happen again if nothing's done. And when it does happen again, once again, we will get a situation where it's too little, too fucking late.
He's not rated. So why, we all wonder why, you know, when you look and you say, who are magnificent presenters? Gabby Logan, Desmond Lynam, Jeff Stelling, you know, you can go on, Dan Walker, you can look at people who are really, really good at what they do. And you go and you ask and you say, what about Schofield? Nobody rates him. He can't read autocue. He's big wide eyes. He shouts when he speaks like that. He's rude to everybody around him, as has been, you know, Nadine Dorris has talked about this as well, and various other people on your
why
program.
were they out to protect him?
Why?
Thank you very much for watching this strange video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you got a few laughs along the way. Any support you can throw this video, and indeed my channel, is very much appreciated. A subscribe, a like, a comment, it all adds up and it all helps in the long run, so thank you very much. I'm trying to upload as much as possible. I'm a very, very busy man at the moment. It's not nice. I'd rather be doing this shit, to be honest. And that says a lot, because this channel is a dysfunctional mess. I'm getting videos out as quickly as I can, basically. So expect them when you expect them. I'm going for every few weeks if I can. Hopefully I'll start improving soon, but yeah, stick around. I haven't abandoned this place, I promise. Not yet. Anyway, sayonara, you bitches and bastards. I'm off to go find Mary now, which makes it sound like a holy pilgrimage, and that just makes it even funnier. You see, it's funny. It's funny. Found Mary. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense. Much like the point of this fucking YouTube channel. Thank you and good night.